All right, hello and welcome to my market closing live stream. Let me just send out a quick announcement that I am here and ready to go. So I hope everybody had a good trading day. It was there's a lot of volatility, and I look forward to breaking some of that down, and we'll go from there in just a minute. Let's see here, and going live. I'll let them know on Discord as well. All right, there we go. Okay, so let's take a look at what's going on today. As you can see, there's a whole lot of green, and during QQQ during this Jerome Powell's comments, you sort of had this very typical spike, drop, market changes its mind and starts to melt up, and that's it's fairly common. You can trade that volatility. You have to be very fast, and you'll want to take profits pretty quickly if you're in any kind of near expiration options. These steep declines on puts do very well, but as you can see, it turns around very quickly. So anyways, you just have to monitor it, and you certainly can trade that. As we go through some of the various sectors here, you can see basic materials did quite well. I've been talking about LAC and AA for a while now, and they really came through today. As we move into communication services, this snaps a good example of a kind of initial pre-market spike, spiked at open, and then it comes all the way back to the pre-market low, and it reversed from there. So you see this over and over again today with a number of stocks. So if you're patient, you can catch these reversals. The easiest trade here, probably when you see something spike like this, is to do puts on the pullback, and you kind of don't know when you're in it how far it's going to pull back, of course, but even from I don't know, 24.60 to 24.24. If you're in a weekly option, you're still making some decent profit on that. If you want to go further out, catch a bigger move, sometimes it's better to go into next week's contracts, and you can certainly do that. And then kind of things took off from there. So hindsight, this was a great day for the market. It's easy to get caught up in the wrong side of this in the moment when you're trading, and so that is really where some of the tools on unusual whales comes in. And let's take a look at some of what's going on here at close. So we have number of contracts coming in here. You're starting to see some sold calls. It's not surprising for stocks that are spiking. Snow is one that has been pretty beaten up of late. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so Snow just barely green on the day. It sold way off, and has started to recover. Seems to be having some issues in this 145 area, is turning into some significant resistance. And if we go further out, let's see what 145 is kind of all about. So yeah, on the hour chart, I definitely would identify that as a potentially key level in the next couple days. 4 hours. And, you can see that because we've been tinkering with all-time lows on this, and you can see that even more clearly on the day chart. So, yeah, in terms of when it launched and what it's done since, had this great meteoric rise. I remember drawing these lines, actually looking for a break to the upside back then, around the first of the year. Little did I know, would have really paid to put swing some puts on this, like a lot of stuff. But okay, so it's had this steep decline, just really beaten down. And what this particular whale is doing is actually selling a call. So it's a bearish bet on snow for 617 at 155. That's a single whale, so we'll see what others are doing here. There are some sold puts on it at 125. We see some interest in this 140 area. Calls to 160. And that was yesterday. So somewhat bearish today. Let's get into the live flow. And yeah, so some bearish activity, but here at close, now we're starting to see some bulls stepping in. And it's always interesting to watch this live. This is one buyer who is just loading up on some of these. And it was probably one buyer. So here, the exclamation point means that volume is greater than open interest on it. And we can see that there. So these are weeklies. Those are contracts that could potentially be interesting. In terms of my price range on what I like to play on something like this, this one here would be good. 150, 520. And snow is just one of many. Here's some more bullish flow coming in. And snow is one of many stocks kind of in this category. Now, one of the things that I do when I'm evaluating option flow is I do pay close attention to what's going on at the end of the day. And I try to use that as some kind of indication of where they might want to push this. And so particularly for a stock like snow that is kind of flat on the day, I'm going to be really interested to see what kind of breakout we get in either direction. So it's been hovering around this kind of the midpoint on the RSI most of the day. Didn't really catch the full benefit of that steep move and the indices. You can see like Twilio did much better in terms of sell off and then reversal. So where might this go? If I were going to calculate call and put triggers on it, I get into the day chart here. My average true range, 1815. I divide that by 4. So around 450. Okay, 450. So if I were to go in here and look, what approximately is going on at 450. So we go to basically 149. See if that's an area of interest here. Yeah, I mean it catches some of this consolidation here. Catches a few of the wicks on these previous candles in both directions. And I can actually put a line here. And again, when you're setting triggers, it's not the math on it is not exactly an exact science. But what you're trying to do is identify something that can work as a pivot point for you. So, all right. So say like 148.91 thereabouts can move this up or down, and go from there. If we go 4 in the other direction, around 140, we can see that, yeah, this is an area where that cuts across the edge of a number of different candles on this hour chart, and I do like that. So I will take this, say around 140 or thereabouts, and okay. And so there's my my initial draft of some call and put triggers. If I were to watch list snow tomorrow, which I might. I want to dig a little deeper into it. I want to see kind of a full view of what happens at close in terms of the contracts coming in. And again, you can see that as they pile in the last 40, the last few minutes, they are mostly bullish. Some potential indication of some sentiment for tomorrow, maybe. All right, and then we go in here. Look at all this DWAC. What's going on with DWAC? The Trump sector. All right, so let's see what he's doing. Okay, well, that certainly explains something. All right, so we just had this big spike on DWAC out of nowhere, and not sure if they have news or something. I'd have to look into it. But DWAC does this, and if you're lucky enough to have some calls during that, the premium on those just gets jacked through the roof, and it does sometimes often pull back and give it back up. But is this flow enough to get me really interested in this? You see this a lot with DWAC. You see this kind of deep in the money calls going back and forth. This is probably the same person, the 5C, the selling and buying that's going on. So and then there's another one. Why does that happen? They want to control those shares. It, in effect, allows you to control, a lot more shares of the stock for less money than just buying the shares. Now, 5C is very expensive. You can see that these are so 4.84 million sold calls at 5C at $4,500 a pop. That's the stock price. At $4,000 a pop. So that's pretty hefty, but not particularly useful for day trading, because what you're actually looking for, strikes that are out of the money and have a kind of urgency to them. So I talked about fintechs this morning, and as I'm seeing Affirm and Square pop up here, let's go over to those for a minute. Under financial services, big winner today was Upstart. I did discuss that one. So if you got in on that, you did very, very well. And some other fintechs of interest, Affirm and Square. So Affirm, nice move today. Again, steep sell-off, and then it bounced back. So there were plays in both directions on that. How do you scalp this? My charts have these AI signals on them, and you can use that. You can actually get in a little bit early if you want to scale in and take a little more risk with it. But and 1 minute chart's maybe a little dicey to try to do. But like a 3 minute chart, you can see with these fat green candles at open, and then you get the RSI over here, well over 70, and that's a fairly safe entry for puts. It's you're probably not going to get burned too bad doing that. Sometimes if the market just has a lot of crazy momentum, it'll just keep going. But lately, for puts in particular, we see these spikes at open, and then the stock starts to give it back. Now, it reversed off of that. So again, you can then play the RSI in the other direction, which is to catch it at the bottom and try to catch a move up, and you kind of can scale out along the way. Trading's easy when you look back at a chart that already happened, but I can tell you that if you had entered this trade around here, you might be sweating it out a bit on some of these candles before it really got moving. And this is where rules are important. So if I enter into a firm and I just have a stop loss set up already of 20% or something like that, I'm just going to let it try to move, and I'm going to scale out when it starts to hit my target. As the RSI starts to climb, I might have a trailing stop on. I'll just kind of watch it closely. You just learn to let your winners run a bit, and certainly once it gets to here, this is a good time to get out. Again, RSI over 70, and then it pulls back. If you have a big enough position where you can leave a runner on it, you can just let it go and see what happens, and maybe move your stop up along the way, and you can catch an even bigger move. Sometimes with weekly options, though, this isn't exactly worth it, because especially as you get later in the week, the contracts are losing value just by trading sideways. So that theta decay that people talk about starts to get you. So you can just catch one move, call it good, look for an entry elsewhere. Lemonade is another one that I had talked about, and let's see if Lemonade's not really a high volume stock. Let's see if we had anything. Nope, nothing today on Lemonade. We did have, I assumed we'd have Square. Square pretty much all bullish here. Lot of calls on these leaps, 12, 16, 120, 125. And it's not at all out of the realm of possibility that Square hits that number, 120 number, well before January of next year. And in fact, I mean, if the market turns around, if this momentum is able to continue, it will easily get to that number and probably back up to 130 or so. And I would just sort of watch the strikes as whales try to start to walk this up. Now, is it going to get back to 270? I mean, who knows? When you're trading, you don't really care if it does that. You're just looking for that that positive move, and I would imagine 100 is going to be pretty important on Square. And if we go into the intraday analyst, we can kind of see what they're doing with it. So 520.95 C was pretty active today. Volume exceeds open interest. That's a pretty cheap contract as well, $60. So some lotto potential maybe as we get later in the week. That certainly is a possibility. But you could go with something closer to the money as well. 90 for next week is trading around 340. So that's a feasible contract. Yeah, so overall, I like what I see. Some of the bigger option trades are some bearish ones early. Not surprising as it, was going down. A ambitious floor trader at 65. That's interesting. Wonder if they're okay. So they're rolling out of it. I'll talk more about that later. Okay, so then 115 leap. This one I saw on the other page, and as you navigate through these tools, it's it's a good feeling to see contracts that you have seen before, and you see them pop up on the different spots in the site, indicated as being unusual, as significant, and that kind of helps you zero in on a potential thesis for that particular stock. All right, let me go into some of the alerts from today. See what we got going. All right. So some of our more recent alerts, I kind of like to go in the last hour and a half, just kind of see what's going on. Twitter. I've been staying away from Twitter during all the Elon Musk stuff, especially overnight. I mean, you just never know what's going to happen with that. And I saw Upstart somewhere. Yeah, okay, here it is. Upstart 40p for August. I mean, Upstart up over 20% today. Not really all that surprising that someone might put in a bet that it'll go down. This is pretty far out in terms of its expiration, so not a particular contract I'd be interested in, but a concept with some appeal. Upstart's going to move tomorrow. I doubt it'll trade flat, and it's either going to continue or it's going to pull back and retrace a bit. So so we'll see. Soxel, this is a semiconductor ETF. This is a sold call, 230K. It was up quite a bit today. Yeah, almost 15%. So, selling a call there makes some sense if you're doing that. Very good. All right. So we'll go back into, let's go to the options dashboard. So this is often, this is where my notes for the next day really begin, and they start to take shape. I'll move through the sectors here, see what I can see what I notice. Notice some bullish activity on Dow. Dow's a good stock to trade it often. And so up 3% today, hit 70. Let's see the last time it did that. So it's been a while since it's been up here. May 4th, and then you go back to April. So okay, so it's kind of trying to potentially break through. And looking here, do I see calls over $70. That is what I'm after. So the first place I would look is here. So 65.70. So far, not much there. If I go into live flow alerts, give me anything over 70, 77.5. It's a leap. 80. This is a sold call though. 72.5 sold call. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. These are these are way too old. Okay, so not a lot of activity on Dow except this one, 77.5. Okay, so somewhat interesting. Go into live flow again. And see what they're doing with Dow. Well, this certainly jumps out at you. This is probably one buyer. And oh, here we go. Okay. So good example. The dividend dates is getting pretty close. And these are in the money. And I'm going to explain what happens with that. Okay. So on a dividend day, and it actually isn't until the 27th. So we're not actually going to run into this right now with this stock. But you always have to be careful of bullish flow around a dividend date, and you'll see that listed on in Unusual Whales with that dollar sign. You'll see that, and you'll just see big blocks of the stock popping up, and that's what they're doing with this. They want institutions will sell each other these big blocks of in the money contracts. They get them so that they can capture that dividend. And the reason it's risky with respect to option flow is that a lot of times on a dividend day, you do see the stock, in fact, flush on that. So here, back in November, you would have seen, probably 95, 100% bullish flow on Dow, and then it just plummets after the dividend. So you wouldn't want to swing anything through a dividend date. Now, in terms of trading it, you can often catch a pretty nice reversal on those dividend flushes, but again, it's just something to be aware of. And if I had just been on this page and seen 3.5 million bullish premium on 520.65, I might think more of that than what it is. Although I will say, though, we did see the dividend date isn't until the 27th, so this is actually 520. So something else might be going on here. So I think there is reason to be bullish on it, but I just wanted to bring that dividend to your attention. All right, so basic material, small caps. What stands out here? I've done this enough where it starts to be populated with stocks I know, and I can make some judgments based on that. So we can see 3 different times MET-C pops up. What did let's see what MET-C did today. All right, MET-C is Ramaco Resources. It is a coal stock. So coal has done pretty well. This actually dipped today, and down 2.94%. $10C, 1250C. All those are in the money. Chart is in a decent spot. I think ads closer to 13 would be, what you might be after. So maybe I'll make a note of it. I might come back to that. Go into the mid caps. X is a steel stock. AG is a silver stock. LAC is a lithium stock. KGC is a gold stock. So I'm seeing some gold here. X definitely catches my attention though. And X today up 372. And you can see that finally, after a huge sell-off, X is consolidating and showing some signs of life around $25. And these calls, 26, 28, October 35, that is a good sign. Is there anything bearish on X? Yeah, there's some bearish calls as well and puts. This put leap's a little extreme, 10p for January. So, okay. So initially looking at that, on this page, the flow looks a little bit mixed. Let's see if X had any flow alerts. Yeah, quite a few. So weeklies, some puts coming in, and out of the money on the calls. That's good. You get into the live flow. Yeah, so same thing I just saw. 520 out of the money. That is promising. Those contracts are trading at about $10. And, if you buy a bunch of those, you're always going to be mindful of your fees. But you might go with a lower strike. But potentially some bullish activity, maybe a stock I would watch list. Depends on what else I see. And let's go ahead and just jump down to technology, skip to the exciting stuff, and see what small caps we got. Been a long time since I've seen Vuzi on here. What is Vuzi up to? Oh, there you go. So Vuzi had a big day, 18%. And it doesn't look like they had earnings recently. Well, they did have it recently, but not today or anything. So here we are. We're back up in this zone here. Nice gap up to $7. And this is a weekly for $6. So pretty close to claiming that. So there's some definitely some potential there. Some crypto, Riot. Yeah, Riot up 6%. You can see that doesn't even really make a dent in where it is. Fell all the way from $23 to $7.60. I remember last week thinking $11 was a little bit strange for Riot. Not used to seeing it down there, and it fell further. So yeah, it's one of those things. If you liked it at 11, you'll love it. You'll love it at 7, I guess. Certainly could dip further. It's crypto dependent, so that helps a lot because you can essentially trade it almost like an oil stock, where you have a stock that's anchored to that commodities price. Now, something that does happen at times with Riot, Mara, and some of the others is that on a crypto crash, it's catches the full move down on a crypto rebound, it does, sometimes doesn't get that enough juice to really move. But yeah, 6% is a great day. If you were day trading this, you could do very well on the option side. Okay, so a couple of the smaller technologies. BBAI. BBAI. This one I think had been, big bear. This had been, a pumper stock. Had this big move here. Gave it back. And we're back in this zone. So yeah, maybe. I don't know. Wait and see on that one. And getting into some of the larger caps. Affirm's a fintech, but it's categorized with technology. That's fine. 30C. Yeah, up 9% today. Trying to fill this gap on the earnings rundown. 30, 31. And so not entirely out of the realm of possibility that it gets back to 30 fairly soon. A couple of green days in a row in the market, and certainly I think it could do that. All right. In tech, when you get to the mega caps, you're just going to see Apple, AMD, and NVIDIA. That's almost all you're going to see there. Sometimes you might see an Amazon or something, but and you can trade those off these levels, but there's other more interesting sectors to look at. So we've got WDC, Uber, Marvel, Palantir. I talked at Open about how I thought Palantir was looking pretty good. Nothing extreme here. 330, and but again, it had that steep sell off that a lot of stocks had, and so you could catch it all the way down to $8 and ran it up to 832 within a few minutes time. So that would have been a good trade. And Uber is another one I mentioned as being bullish. 2%. So again, nothing too extraordinary there. The strike here, 25, so fairly close to in the money. Shop, I don't often see Shop on here, so that's certainly worth noting. 400C is a contract getting some attention. So let's take a look at Shop. Yeah, so if it's at 370 now, it was at 400 at open yesterday. So maybe it'll get there this week. I don't know, but either way, I mean that's a contract you certainly can day trade and do perfectly fine with it. All right. Now let's go back to the alerts. See what's what. Quite a few puts coming in. Not entirely surprising, given how much a lot of these ran today. So, puts on XPEV. I would probably go into XPEV with a call trigger and a put trigger and just try to catch a big move on it. And Walmart, this is a sold call. Not nothing crazy on volume. I kind of like in the alerts. I like to see 6-figure volume. That will always kind of get my attention. And okay, so alerts still coming in. We'll go to the financial services. BAC WFC. That was another one I mentioned in the pre-market stream that was starting to show some signs of life. And you'll always see the mega caps and financial services dominated by these. And we go in here. Mostly the same names, JPM and C, one WFC, but no BAC. So BAC seems to be leaning pretty bullish. I'll check this out. Yeah, so you can see here for the 17th, we have pages and pages of these, and they're calls. So you can, so you can potentially play that. This sitting at 36, so to see calls at 37, calls a few months from now out to 42. And I think we're getting to a point in the market where you could consider swinging options on something like BAC. You want to be careful. I think you'd want to scale in. You want to have some levels in mind. But if you run out of day trades, first thing I'd say is probably get a cash account. But if you're on like Robinhood or something, you certainly could start thinking about a swing here, and I actually might do that. But yeah, so this is at a nice level here. Former resistance back in January 2020 before COVID really hit. And then you have reversal and decline. So, we're kind of right back here. RSI is in a decent spot. It's tried a couple of rallies that have stalled. This is why I would say you'd want to scale into it. But I'd be looking at it. I'll get some August calls maybe at 40 or a little higher, and I'd look for a run back to 40. So we'll see if the market wants to push and help with that. Okay, so thanks for attending. This was my first of these pre-market aftermarket market close streams, and I'm planning to do this every day at open and at close. If I have something in my schedule that conflicts with that, I'll make sure to update you on Twitter. But again, thank you for attending. Really appreciate the support, and have a great evening.